Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Silver Screen Dudes YouTube channel and indeed the Silver Screen Dudes podcast. If you're listening to us on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, and if you are, thank you very much. This is our monthly classic movie review show where AJ and I get together. We look at movies that are hitting a decade landmark. That could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, or even more. We basically take the chance throughout the month to rewatch them. We give you our review now, and we ask the ultimate question. Is it still worth watching? Are they worth revisiting? Have they stood the test of time? And here we go.
Indeed, let's go.
I'm Nico Lero, that's AJ Anthony Jordan, and we're starting off with 10 years, AJ. This freaked me out. 10 years old is the Kenneth Branagh directed, Lily James starring Cinderella.
Nice. I agree with you on the whoa, where did the past 10 years go? I mean, there's a part that always gives me a bit of a wake-up call. Silver Screen Dudes are 8 years old, so it's not that scary. But in the same breath, it's that scary. Look, when it comes to this live action version of, you're always going to be a bit hurt by it and feel like it's not what my memory bank recalls. That's the situation. However, I like Kenneth Branagh as a director. I think he does very good work. I don't want to get into comic book territory while we're on it, but what he done with the first four stood out to me. I was like, okay, you sold it to me. And again, with this film, I was like, no, we're good. We're in good hands here. Yeah. It may not give me everything of hitting the beats of what I'm aware of from before, but it's given me something different, and I'm not complaining. I actually really like it. I thought, well done you. Well done you.
Listen, considering what kind of kickstarted, not entirely, but what kind of kickstarted the whole Disney live action movement was that Maleficent movie, which Angelina Jolie was good in it. The movie was very meh. I thought this was a monumental step up for a number of reasons. It was better directed. It was more compelling. It was closer to the source material. And I think Disney realized very quickly that their initial idea of let's retell all of our classic stories, but according to the villain's point of view, which was the initial idea. I mean, with Maleficent and Maleficent 2, that idea kind of crashed and burned, and they realized let's just do like for like remake of what people know. And look, love them or hate them, they're very successful. They're very, very successful. Lion King was hugely successful. Aladdin was hugely successful. Jungle Book was hugely successful. I hope they continue to make them. I see this from 2 points of view. For me, as someone who grew up watching the cartoons themselves, I know that they're never going to capture the magic of the cartoons. I use them as kind of nostalgia vessels. That's all they are. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours of a bit of nostalgia. It's like, oh, how can you reimagine something I know, put a different coat of paint on it and present it in exactly the same way? Is it a success? Is it not? If it's not, who cares? Still got the cartoons. It's like, I think the biggest argument you can levy at Disney as far as doing these live action remakes, slightly cynical but somewhat true, is that, they're quick cash grabs. They are. They definitely are.
No, it's
a fact. But it's a fact. But I can also tell you as a dad that, with my little girl, if I took her, well, not took her because they're out already, but when she gets a little bit older and starts watching live action stuff, she'll be charmed by Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. She'll be like, oh, that's nice, like as I'm growing up and watching less cartoons and watching more animation, I can still appreciate these movies that I used to love as animations in a new capacity while feeling familiar. I don't think they're really there to reinvent the wheel. And I think that though I agree with the cynicism that they are lazy cash grabs, I also think they're ultimately a bit harmless. I don't think they're hurting anyone. I think they're soulless. That's the Lion King especially is a good example of being soulless. But this furor, this anger, this death to Disney that you hear, usually the same type of people who say you use the term MCU, that brand of person, they get very angry about things like this. And it's like, guys, if you don't like it, just don't watch it. It's really cool. It's fine.
Look, one of the things I will say when it comes to all of this is we need to let go of who we are. Yes, I appreciate that we are not far removed from Snow White being 100 years old. But in the same breath, we have to appreciate Snow White is nearly 100 years old. So when you are highlighting this stuff to a younger generation, let them embrace something newer and fresh to them, because there are some stuff that kids look at the same way we, when we were younger, didn't know how to approach a black and white movie. You know, yes, we could still appreciate Mary Poppins and whatnot. There are some stuff that are going to look very old. Let them have their moment. This is not for us, it's for them. This is their chance to embrace it. And then they let them compare from a different lens. And could we be shocked? And do we have to accept that they may say, I prefer that to what we embrace more? That's their right, you know, and that's a different conversation in itself. So yeah, people can get butthurt, but let the new generation have their moment. It's there. Let them take in the characters we love in their form. It's their time.
The thing I find quite weird about it all is that, of course, art is subjective and we all like what we like and dislike what we like. And then there'll be the minor but very loud contingent saying, that's an art. It's like dead argument. You can like and dislike anything, obviously. And, you know, will I ever relate to someone who thinks that the live actions are better than the animations? No. But I'm also not going to go on YouTube and get all angry about it. You know, I'll be like, do you know what? Someone's found some joy in the same story that used to bring me joy in a different capacity. Cool. Long love cinema, man. That's what the channel's all about. That's what we're preaching. If it's going to do something where it puts bums in seats and people go to the cinema and support the medium of movie and the art form that is movie making, if it's a lazy cash grab and the movies churn out $1 billion, you know what that means? It means $1 billion worth of people went and sat in the cinema to watch something. People being in the cinema is a good thing.
I agree. No arguments here.
So it's not that old, Cinderella, at 10 years old. What would you score it?
Right. So Cinderella. Look, I'm gonna go. We're not doing halves. It might sound a bit generous. I'm gonna go 7. It's not. It's above middle ground. It's decent. It's watchable. There was no harm done. It's not the greatest to be in the upper echelon of final threes, but it's good and it's above average, and not just above average to me.
Yeah, I'm actually going to co-sign with you on this one. I think I'm going to score Cinderella also a 7 out of 10. It's 10 years on. It's still definitely worth rewatching. If you've seen the original cartoon, I think, you know, unless you're a cynical prick, it will give you a bit of childlike wonder. I think it's one you can safely show your kids if you're an adult who's got kids. I think it's one the kids will enjoy. More or not than the cartoon, I don't know, but it's done a very good job of bringing the quintessential Cinderella story to life. The performances are good. Cate Blanchett is an excellent evil stepmother, and Lily James is a really good Cinderella. This movie works for me. It's a harmless, innocent adaptation of a story we all know and love, and it's 7 out of 10, I would say. Okay, moving on to 20 years old now. Our second movie of this month. Big old cast, and it's a sequel which I don't think, I'm going to say we needed. No one ever needed a movie, right? It's a sequel I certainly didn't want. And
very unrelated sequel as well, if I dare say.
Yes and no. We'll get on to it. Anyway, the movie in question is Be Cool, the follow-up to Get Shorty. Now, what's weird about this is that a lot of the same cast returned. And it's from Elmore Leonard. Elmore Leonard, who wrote Get Shorty, who wrote Jackie Brown, who wrote Out of Sight, and who also wrote Be Cool. So this is based off of an Elmore Leonard book. But there was something magic about Get Shorty. From the cultural zeitgeist impact that was John Travolta's revival, and then seeing him do more movies post Pulp Fiction like Get Shorty was wonderful. Seeing that he could still have that kind of middle-aged charm, and Get Shorty it's one of those unsung heroes that I don't think people talk about often enough. Be Cool felt like a mess to me. It hit a lot of the right notes. The cast, notably, you had the returning Gene Hackman. You had, rest in peace, by the way, R.I.P. indeed. You had, obviously, John Travolta. You had his reunion with Uma Thurman, first time since Pulp Fiction, and they did another dance scene together, which was a nice tip of the hat. So that was cool. Likes of Harvey Keitel in this, Vince Vaughn, like a serious cast. The Rock, The Rock's in it, and of course, all sorts of big music stars like Andre 3000, amongst many others. But it just lacked the charm and the direction. Not the direction as far as the director's concerned, but the narrative direction of the first film. First one's very clear. Chili Palmer wants out of the gangster world. He goes to Hollywood, becomes a producer, but still uses some of his gangster wilds to get to where he needs. This one, it's like, well, I'm bored of producing movies. I've become jaded and I want to move into music producing. I'm like, brother, producing movies bummed you out. Wait till you start producing music. Woo! So the whole basis of it didn't entirely work for me. And it just, nothing stuck out in it. Like the one moment of joy I had was Travolta and Thurman sharing a dance scene together. Other than that, I was like, eh. Oh, Christina Milian dancing, of course, which was nice. But aside from that, it was eh.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of agree. So the big thing to me is, one, I'd not seen Get Shorty.
Still?
I had not seen it. And what had happened is...
Sorry, is that still the case?
I refrained from answering that question.
No banter.
I've not seen it.
Damn. Okay. Put anything that's on your must-see list. Trust me, Get Shorty goes straight to the top.
Okay.
Never in the field of combat has there been a more AJ movie made.
Fair enough. But I've heard a lot about Get Shorty, and I feel like I heard from the makers of Be Cool when the adverts were out, but the AJ in me at 15 years old, maybe 16, went for two very big reasons. One, The Rock.
The Rock.
And oh my days, Christina Milian. Like, Kira and Christina are like that. Like, it depends on the wind. But I think Christina's been winning recently. No offense to Kira when I say that. But it was like, whoa, like my wrestling and my crush, like I'm all over it, right? And I go for this film, and okay, maybe not be able to relate to who Chili Palmer is. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? But in the same breath, I see it's a different film. And I just felt like, as you said, for all the stars that were in it, I get, as you said, a post-Pulp Fiction John Travolta. Oh, cool. Andre 3000's in it. Gene Hackman's in it. Once again, R.I.P. Like, you see the stars in it. There's not enough. There's enough eye candy in there. And I say that not as a sexualization, but familiar faces when I say eye candy for the film to deliver. And I just remember the film ending and just being a bit indifferent and still confused. I was like, okay, so we got to the end. Cool. It was just cool. Like, yeah, I get that. You got this. But many other films around that time that I saw left me feeling a lot better. I was just not even wanting. I was just like, oh, well, that was all right. Like, okay, that was that. Not even that was all right. That was that. That's how I felt with the film. Like, everyone done what they had to do. But yeah, have I ever watched Be Cool a second time? No. That's just the truth of it.
No, nor me. I started rewatching it for the purpose of this podcast, and it reminded me within sort of 30, 40 minutes. I was like, oh yeah, I really don't like this film, do I? It's flat. It's really flat. It moves at a snail's pace. The antagonists are not that interesting. Vince Vaughn playing. Are we allowed to say Wigger? Is that allowed or
go for it? Like, I don't know. How about is one a man who culturally appreciates the African American society? Like, let's just go with it. I don't know if it's offensive.
Watiadi.
I mean, that's different. He was born in Jamaica, but yeah, we know where we're going. Yeah, like, he's a man who doesn't fit the skin color.
Yeah, and it was like whatever. Whereas in Get Shorty, he's dealing with some genuine heavies and there's a genuine threat. Nothing felt threatening here. It's like if this was a fight, Chili Palmer's like the final boss, and it's like, Ironic that he's going up.
I was going to say,
ironic. Yeah, flat to the highest degree, and I can't. Do you know what? More than flat, boring. And for a movie about an ex-gangster who's become jaded with the movie world and who wants to go in and muscle in on the music world to be boring is kind of unforgivable, especially when you consider the source material for Melmore Leonard is actually pretty damn good. So for me, if you haven't seen Be Cool, I genuinely, it's not one I can recommend. I'm going to score Be Cool a 5 out of 10. It's not terrible, but it's completely middle of the road, boring and flat. What I will say is, as we keep mentioning Get Shorty, if you're one of many, such as present company, who has not seen Get Shorty, and you like movies like Pulp Fiction, and you like movies like Snatch, boy, do you owe it to yourself to see Get Shorty.
Okay. Funny enough, I'm a bit lower than you. I was at a 4. I know I wasn't going to go majorly. Maybe there's a hint of disappointment from like who I had in there, you know. But do you know what's also come into my head now that we're talking about it as a like-for-like potential comparison? The Coen Brothers film with oh god,
Hail Caesar.
Yes, yeah. You know, when you look at that agent there and the way things are handling there, if you know the similarities, look at what we got one muscle guy who's doing musicals, and then we got the other one with The Rock who's being the actor who then starts doing these tribal dancing at the end. You're gonna go with Hell Caesar a lot more. Like there's just nothing redeeming in Get Shorty, and I love half the cast in that bloody film, but it just doesn't give you a takeaway. Josh Brolin was the name that made me hesitate when I was talking about the Coens, but yeah, you know, yeah, it just missed something.
Okay, let's go back 30 years, AJ. Now we're starting to get old. This is well, starting. This is old territory. 30 years old. A movie which I think we actually brought up on one of our old podcasts during the pandemic era. Outbreak.
Yeah, now this is a different conversation.
Yeah.
This is a film, and again, you mentioned the pandemic. It feels so similar. Like this is, if you're going to talk pandemic and virus movies, this is the film, and it seems so unassuming, but it's so chilling at the same time. Like it tells a story. It's such a duality in the film that society is getting on, but there is such a danger at hand at the same time that it just starts to trigger, and you see little moments where people don't realize what's going on, and you just want to jump in the screen and scream, no, don't, you know, you just feel it. And the moments of it, the illnesses that come about, like it's weird how in 1995, so I had to stop and do the calculations there, in 95 it's just a virus movie. You come to the early 2020s, well 2020 itself, and you're like, oh my days, how similar this is, how realistic it is, you know, the challenges and the precautions one has to take along the way because a animal originated virus is now contagious to this degree. It is absolutely mad, and it just feels, it was kind of chilling watching it back in the period. You know, it's chilling initially. When you're going through that stuff, it's not the kind of film to watch. Like, should there ever be a pandemic again, you know, touch wood, it doesn't occur. You know, many lives are repeat all those lost during that pandemic. That is not the film to watch. It just has you even more chilling than you should be. You're more, ooh.
It's really aged quite beautifully. More so because of the real fact of the pandemic that we all lived through in 2019, 2020. Superb performances. I mean, Dustin Hoffman is just a force of nature. Rene Russo is incredible. I know he's, you know, persona non grata now, but Kevin Spacey's freaking great in this. Like, everyone is great in this film. And there's that really interesting duality of the fact that this little monkey, this capuchin monkey, is all sorts of cute, man. And there's this weird, I don't know what you would describe it as, almost parental protection that comes over me when I watch it. It's like, leave the monkey alone, don't hurt the monkey. But inside, you're like, well, monkey needs to be tranked and, have his blood sample taken so they can actually come up with a cure for this thing. But yeah, do you know the scene that will always stick with me? It's when they don't realize that the virus is spreading at the rate it is, and there's that one person in the cinema who starts like coughing his guts out, and it spreads all over the cinema, and that's when the outbreak really happens, and the hospitals are not able to cope anymore. And then, of course, there's that chilling moment where Dustin Hoffman realizes it's airborne, and it's like, I mean, look, yeah, hair stood up on me, like it's legitimately. It really, in a post-pandemic world, this movie hits hard, man. So has it aged well? Yeah, man. It's aged really, really well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's aged really damn well.
Even when it came up as a list of the films, I was like, "Ooh, this is." You know when you get that chills of classic. That I could put Outbreak in that territory, classic territory.
So much. Do you know what? I'm going to be launching some new content on the channel soon. Bear with. I am launching. It's going to be like a vlog that comes out now and then. And it's just going to be called Support Physical Media. I might be going to buy a game. I might be going to buy a vinyl. I might be going to buy a movie. Who knows? But I'm literally making a little list of, because I've got a pretty vast Blu-ray and DVD collection. I'm just going to build on it, and I know that there's some key movies I don't have in my collection. Outbreak is one of them. To quote Jericho, you made the list.
And so it should. So it should.
Yeah. Such a great film. Such a great film. What do I score Outbreak? For me, based on the fact that it's aged so well, based on the fact that it's kind of more relevant now than it's been for maybe its whole 30-year existence, the fantastic performances, it's well-paced, it's well-acted, it's engaging, it's highly believable, more so now that we've lived through a pandemic. I'm going 8 out of 10 for Outbreak.
It's exactly what I had in my head. Exactly the same score. The question comes, what doesn't make it a 9? Just because it's not maybe a go-to of mine, but there's nothing to fault of it. That's the situation. It's a very well put together film that you can't really complain about. It's just not on my go-to list.
It's not God level. It's just not God level. Yeah. It's not greatness on another level. It's just.
Can I be real? And I'm sure it's got a very good budget behind it. So this is weird. But on previous episodes, maybe a previous season, there was that conversation we had about middle ground movies, films that just you would enjoy in the cinema. This is Outbreak,
Perfect.
It doesn't have to be the world's greatest budget.
Double A movie. Great example. This is a double A movie that everyone
Perfect
should
example
see.
of it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
These are the types of movies, by the way, guys, just while we stand on our soapboxes here, that if you don't support these types of movies, they are going to disappear. Which is why I say when movies like Outbreak come along, hell, like movies like Mickey 17 that's out at the cinema right now at the time of recording. They're pretty big budget. They need your support. That's part of the Hollywood machine. So I'm not, we're not dealing with paupers here, but you speak with your cash, not with your angry YouTube rants. Like if you want movies like this to be made, there's no point getting angry at the Disney live action remakes. There's no point butt slamming things like Snow White, by the way, which I happen to agree with a lot of, as AJ does as well. There's no point starting these, soapboxy cultural wars about movies. The only thing the Hollywood systems speak to is cash. If you make enough noise, like, I know people are going to say, oh, but they've cancelled the world premiere of Snow White. Yeah, it's true. They have. The movie's still going to release. And the movie's still going to release. This one is particularly toxic, though. But the crux of what I'm saying is that for the most part, you complaining about, here's a good one. I don't like Star Wars. Disney ruined Star Wars. Bah! They're still going to make more Star Wars movies, and your ass is still going to go and see them in the cinema. And you going to see them in the cinema, that's how you're telling the studio that it's okay to keep making Star Wars movies. They listen to cash. Mickey
Until you make a
17
change,
needs
you
to
won't
be
see a change.
supported. Exactly. Movies like Outbreak need to be supported. Start taking risks on movies that are not big IPs, sequels, prequels, all of the stuff essentially that people condemn and say that's all they make nowadays. But the irony is that stuff that they condemn is what they go and support. But then when you look at all the original movies, that doesn't get supported.
No, and it's not that it's lacking stars; it's just not majorly influenced. Anyway, I could go for a list of films in there, like
Outbreak's
films that are just popping into my head. But yeah,
definitely one
we're,
to
we're
watch.
focused on those. So yeah, Outbreak, solid 8 out of 10, co-signed by both.
Last movie of this month on the podcast. Let's go back 40 years, AJ. Let's go back to a time before you were just born. This came out.
Well, no, I
Not
was
quite. You were
I was
short.
big in the gut. I was big in the
Yeah.
gut at this point.
You were
I was
bun in the
imminent.
oven.
Yeah.
Bun in the oven. A very weird one because it's part of the comedy genre, which of all genres of cinema is arguably the most subjective, because what makes people laugh and what makes us all laugh is so different from one person to the next, right? Police
Agreed.
Academy 2.
So I'm going to be honest in this, and there's stages to it. We are slightly delayed in recording. We were meant to do it a previous week. I got held up and I couldn't. We then met up in person, and I was like, bro, I don't know how it goes. I've seen... I as a kid, I'm familiar with Police Academy, the franchise. I always joke about the film that's got 1,000,001 films, but I think they're at 8 or something. Anyway, matters not. I hadn't seen it.
I think
and
you're right, by the way.
Me being me, I'm not... if I'm going to reintroduce myself into it, it's like if you said to me, Apollo, if you told me right now, Rocky 4 is going to be 25 or whatever years, I know it's older than that. I'm going to start from Rocky and come back because I need to reaffirm myself with the project and what it is. I started with Police Academy 1. And the more I watch, the more I realize why it's not in the pantheon of films that need to be replaced. Because I don't actually know where the grounding is for this film. It's very childlike.
What do you mean by that?
Well, here's the thing. Where would you rank it and what time can you put Police Academy on? Because as an older person, respectively, like looking back, I may catch it, but as I've found, I was like, not laughing. And then if you go in to introduce it to the kids, there's too many bad words for it to be your TV time kind of show. So it's lost in this shuffle of where does it fit, because they're too potty mouth for it to be a kid's film, and it's just not good enough to be an adult film. And that's where Police Academy stands for me right now. I trudged through it, that I didn't complete it, and I haven't made it through to number 2. I recall it. The characters are... Look, they're the cheese of their era, dare I say. But I also feel like they could have possibly been 10 years too late as well. It feels more 70s than 80s. It doesn't feel like an 85 movie. I remember my dad, when I was a kid, having no time for Police Academy at all. He was like, enjoy yourself kind of thing. And I think it's telling that I didn't overly enjoy what I was going back. Again, sometimes in rush mode, I may not be consuming it the way I would. But I was just like, this needs to hurry up so I can get to 2. Didn't even get that far.
Interesting. So confession time for me as well. I have never actually watched the Police Academy movies until now. So I'm much like yourself, very, very late to this. Now, I haven't seen Police Academy 1. This is my only one I've seen. From what I saw, there's nothing in this that made me think, oh, I've got to see Police Academy 1. I'm missing some vital story pieces here. No. The story's basic as you like. Group of rookie police officers get sent to a police department in a part of town which is awfully, awfully dangerous. And they're sent there on the basis that they're going to screw up. So therefore, the superintendent's going to be replaced, and this new lieutenant is going to take his place. So it's a malicious plan, but it turns out the rookies are actually really good at their job. And now we have the hijinks, right? And yeah, they do a relatively good job of making all of these rookies very different. Like you've got the big black dude, you've got the black dude who makes noises, you've got the kind of hench little white boy, and it's fine. It's fine. I can't even remember the names, and I watched it literally this week. I come back to what I said at the top. Comedy being such a subjective genre, when it doesn't make you laugh, comedy doesn't work subjectively for me. And this movie was exactly that. I never laughed. Now, that's not to say that that's not fair. There was one scene that made me laugh. There's a shower scene where they swap the guy's shampoo out for super glue. So get hands stuck to his head, hands stuck to his chest, and I'm like, call me a sucker for a shower scene. That made me laugh, like genuinely
Even the
laugh.
super glue scene. Even the super glue scene. AEW. American Pie 2 done it perfectly, like
Porky's.
Yeah.
Porky's shower scene. Funnily enough, Porky's also an 80s comedy, which I do love. But yeah, man, just aside from that, I thought this is a very, very, very long movie, considering the very, very, very simplistic subject matter.
Bad thing, hour and a half.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I felt that length. Do you know what that comes down to then? And I noticed it. Schizophrenic editing. And I was seeing it as we're going from one scene to the next. It's like, bar fight starts. Middle of bar fight. Next scene. I'm like, but bar fight. Superintendent, haha, shower scene. He's now locked out in the corridor with his hands all hairy, stuck to his chest. Next scene. I'm like, but hairy hands shower boy, what happened to him? I want to see how that scene plays out. No, next scene. I'm like, can you let stuff play out, please? And because it doesn't play out, you're not able to get in and engage with the characters and on the scene. And because you're not able to get in with the characters and on the scene, it drags, feels slow. And as you said, it's an hour and a half. Jeez, did I feel the length to that.
So, Police Academy, here's the problem with Police Academy. Police Academy is what Pirates of the Caribbean became. Where you saw a man who plays an idiot but is quite smart, he was later an idiot who got lucky. Now, I'm not going to call them idiots who got lucky, but it's underdogs who happen to achieve a victory because of their good-hearted nature and they just come out on top. There's nothing... This squad from the Police Academy are not the greatest of super sleuths. They're just good-hearted people who happen to make it work. Conversely, you could also look at the situation of the reason why it's schizophrenic thing is because you've got maybe 8 members in the group and you're trying to give them more TV time because, okay, Steve Guttenberg being probably one of the more recognizable faces as is the superintendent, they're probably going to get a bit more TV time. But then because you've introduced all these characters and it's meant to be a squad, everybody gets this mad TV moment and they always get dispersed. So it's got to be, I've got to follow you here on this job. You on this job. You on that job. Yeah. As a kid.
Very disjointed. Very kid, disjointed.
It's the guy who's very good with the sounds that I remember him being all kind of cool and like I don't know what film it is. It may be 2. I'll be honest, he could even be in number 1. But he literally at one point makes himself look like I'll go for Terminator more than RoboCop because he's moving exactly like a machine and the villain is like, oh my God, I don't want none. Yes, I had fun.
He's in number 2. I'll tell you who did make me laugh in number 2, actually, giving the movie some credit. Bobcat Goldthwait, who you'll know as Pain from Hercules. Coming your most business. And
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, seeing him actually do his shtick in a live action capacity, but more for my affinity because of Hercules, I was just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But look, I, honestly, he may even turn up in Police Academy 1. That's how deep I got. I couldn't tell you if he is or isn't in it.
I don't know.
As a person who appreciated it as a kid, I will go back to them. Not before Get Shorty, not before Lord of the Rings, but I will go back to them.
Put Get Shorty above Lord of the Rings. Honestly.
No. But what I'm getting at is
Get Shorty, AJ. If the one thing to take away from this podcast, Get Shorty is top of your list now.
Cool, that's fine, and I'll work with that. But do you get what I'm trying to say? As a person, look, Police Academy 2 is my age, just a couple of months older. Will I give it a shot? Yeah, but I'm in legitimately no rush, and I'm not gonna endorse my name on it. That's how hard it is for me.
Final score for me for Police Academy 2. It has its place in cinema history. I think it's aged like milk. But I also know that there will be people out there who grew up loving it, and they will most likely show it to their kids, and maybe the kids will love it. So I can't come down on it too hard. I can't hate it too hard. I understand it has its place in cinema history for the right reasons. Didn't work for me, so it's got to be a below average score. Police Academy 2, I'm going to give a 4 out of 10 to. And I'm going to say, if you like it, good for you. No hate. Just didn't work for me. And yeah, not one I can personally recommend you go back and watch when there's so many good comedies out there.
I'm torn. And I'll tell you why I'm torn. I know each film has its own merit, but I'm like, if I gave Get Shorty 4, does it also get a 4? Or is it a 3? And
Be Cool, you
mean?
Be Cool, not Get Shorty.
Yeah, sorry.
Be Cool's cool like Get Shorty is like a 9.
Yeah, so I'm just like so torn on if I do it. But I think because I'm being unfair and because of previous affinity, and the thing is, I could come back on the next episode and be like, I revoke that score. It's going to be a 2. I'm going to join you on the 4 island. I'm going to join you on the 4 island. I'm going to give it that, but that's me being sympathetic. In my heart, I'm partially saying 3, but for the fact that I grew up enjoying those, and I've probably seen Mission to Moscow, and I've seen a few others here and there in between, the young AJ would have given you higher. Not being too impressed as a 39-year-old man, soon to be 40, you get a 4. You get a 4. Damn, I nearly still went for the 3. It gets a 4.
You get a 4. Okay, fair enough, mate. Then I guess that brings us to the end of another classic movie review podcast. Guys, we are of the belief here that as well as supporting new cinema, you should also get edutained, support old cinema. And that's what this podcast is for, bringing to light some movies that you may have either missed, may not have heard of, or retro movies that you may have. I'm out of lines. That's fine. Movies you haven't seen for a while, movies you may have never heard of.
Want to
reconnect and get nostalgic. Support old cinema as well as new cinema. Support old cinema. That's what the channel's about. Long love cinema. Love for movies right here on the Silver Screen Dudes. But enough rambling. We'll see you next month. My name's Nico Liro. He's the one, AJ Anthony Jordan. And we will see you right here next month for another classic movie review show. Bye for now, guys. Long love cinema.